There's a great new music venue that specializes in original acoustic music in Topsfield, Massachusetts. It's called Good Folk, and it's owned and operated by singer-songwriter Dan Pallotta. I was doing sound there the other day for Dan while he was performing, and he told a story about John Prine and how John Prine was a mailman. Dan actually has a great song called The Mailman that you can look up on Spotify that is from the perspective of the singing mailman, as John Prine would be called. So the idea was that John Prine was asked, does he ever read any of the mail? And he responded with, well, if it's not in an envelope, then I read everything. So you can imagine John Prine going along, reading all these postcards, and anything that he can get his hands on that's not in an envelope. And I'm thinking about how songwriters are really unique, and writers in general, in the way that we're able to tell stories and share things and express things that we find interesting, that we want to just kind of look under a microscope for a bit and zoom into and to check out and spend some time with. I think if you don't have an opportunity to do that, then you might just have these thoughts and not really have a way to express them. But I'm really thinking a lot about how it's a unique opportunity to be a songwriter, and we can all write poems, and we can all think about ways to share things that we might not bring up in conversation, but might find a way to put into a song. So this is Earth Tones episode 16, Songs Full of Secrets. I'm your host, Jake Pardee, on Earth Tones episode 16. And we're going to talk about songs and metaphors and how we can hide behind saying all these fancy things. But first, a sound from our beautiful Earth. That is some traffic on Main Street in Peabody on the way out to Salem, right outside the laundromat. I was doing my laundry, and I heard all these nice sounds of trucks and things going by on a nice fall day, and I thought, that's an Earth sound if I ever heard one. So those are the trucks going by maybe about 11 a.m. on a given weekday. For a bit of old news this week, this book I've been loving, Jimi Hendrix Electric Gypsy. I haven't even read it as a book yet. I've just been using it for some historic facts and looking at the appendices and all sorts of things to do with Hendrix's day-to-day calendar and his, recording. But this I pulled out today, June 4th, 1967. Jimi Hendrix plays the Saville Theater. Some of the legends in the audience that night include Paul McCartney and David Bowie. I've heard that maybe even Eric Clapton, Pete Townsend, a lot of legends were in the audience that night. Hendrix plays Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, which had come out on Friday. So by Sunday, he was playing that song with Paul McCartney in the audience at the Saville Theater a few days later. I can't imagine. Some of those lyrics are pretty tricky too, so pretty interesting, pretty cool. He smashed up his guitar. That guitar, the Saville guitar, is on display at the Museum of Pop Culture in Seattle, which you can go and see, and it's broken to bits and fragments, but there's a big chunk of the body. You can see all his hand painted, and then there's little sides. You can see it if you look it up online, the Hendrix Saville Theater guitar. And he wrote a poem on the back, and this is the poem. May this be love or just confusion, born out of frustration, racked feelings of not being able to make true physical love to the universal gypsy queen, true, free expressed music, darling guitar please rest. Amen. That's Jimi Hendrix's Saville Theater guitar, and the poem behind it, of course, those would become lyrics. That is a bit of the lyrics to Love or Confusion, and May This Be Love is a wonderful song in its own right. So, for the main discussion today, we're talking about songs. We're talking about how songwriters have a chance, and all writers, and maybe you might want to do a little bit of this yourself if you have something that you have a hard time expressing. So here's what I've written this week. For me, trying to write exactly how I feel is awkward. Something about how imprecise the words are feels embarrassing. When something is so nearly like a feeling, but isn't that feeling, it's like the uncanny valley of emotional expression. The closer it becomes, the less genuine it feels. Songs, poetry, and writing in general let us use metaphor and storytelling to express the impossible or awkward. Each person who hears your song will make the meaning of it for themselves. So we can both share and hide aspects of ourselves within our own writing. Maybe we don't want to get into a big discussion about something. Conversations often become debates. And some things we feel we don't have an interest in solving. We just feel them. And that's a good reason for writing a song. So what I'm thinking about this week is that there are some things that are difficult to bring up in conversation. It might be purely an emotion, or it might be you reflecting on something, and you might not even really want to go into it with somebody else. And you could journal about it if you want to express it directly, or you could write something. I think that writing songs and using metaphor and storytelling is such a great way to express things, because we don't have to worry about having it be so literal. I think if you feel something, if you see someone on the street and they interest you in some way, maybe they're having a hard time or maybe they're having a great time. I saw a guy at the gym yesterday that was extremely confident, and it was encouraging. You might want to write about that because it might not be something that you can bring up in conversation with somebody. Hey, I saw this guy earlier. He seemed really confident at the gym. Unless you can turn that into a story, it might not be something that seems natural to bring up, or it might seem awkward because it might not be like something you can discuss, really. It might just be something like a little vignette that you want to share. So there might also be things that are really personal to you that you're just not really willing to dive into. It might be a past experience, it might be a relationship, or it might just be your thoughts about where you're at. And maybe when you share some of those things, people start to offer you solutions as if it's a problem that you're trying to get to the bottom of. Songs are a great opportunity to express that. And you don't even have to have it be a literal thing of, oh, this person broke my heart, and oh, I'm really struggling right now, or I'm having a great time. You don't have to write something so literal. And that's what I'm getting at here when I was saying that the imprecision of words can feel embarrassing. Sometimes when I try to, the things I don't like the most about my writing are when I try to write something so literal. And I'm like, I was having a good day today, and then I fell down, and now I'm sad. I mean, that could work in some way. But when we have such a specific rendering of something, to me, it can just feel a bit silly. On the nose. It's just a little too literal. It's sitting there and there isn't much to be made of it. And when we start to kind of play with things, with metaphor and with imagery and with storytelling, then you find that you're able to express how you feel almost in disguise. But then by rendering it in disguise, it becomes more true because it's more actually precise for how you really feel. I know that when I was working on the first Roji songs, I had been frustrated trying to make different types of music over the years, and we made the Roji songs, and I showed it to my friend Thad, and Thad was like, great, you succeeded in making the music you've been trying to make. And I thought it was so funny because this was the one project where I had given up on trying to make that music, which was like a blend of my guitar lead style mixed with reggae, mixed with spaghetti western things. I had pretty much given up on that. I thought, I'm just going to make some songs. But what I ended up making was exactly that thing I was trying to make the whole time. So you might end up making something more real by actually kind of putting it in disguise and just expressing what seems to come naturally. So for a musical demonstration, this is a little tricky because it's got to be what occurs to me stream of consciousness. So maybe we take Nesh. Nesh is he's a puppet, and he's an elephant, and he's on the desk. If you're listening to the audio version only, then you won't see him. But if you see the video, Nesh is a puppet that I use to, he's my friend, and we hang out in the studio. But we teach guitar lessons together to the little kids, and kids get a kick out of him. Him and Dr. Chomp here, which is the shark. But say Nesh. So if I sing a little song, I've got a friend, Nesh. He's an elephant on the desk. I've got a friend, Nesh. He's an elephant on the desk. Starts to sound like a fish song or something with how wacky it is. But imagine I started to just say something that was a little less literal. My friend, why so gray today? My friend, how are you feeling today? I know that's nothing special, but it is just putting a little more generality. It's both more specific to me because it's like talking to him, but also more general because it's not saying exactly what he is. Now, Nesh, what do you think of that song?
Well, I don't think that that's a very good song yet, because it doesn't do anything else, but I think that it could be a good song if you were to keep working on it.
Okay, thanks, Nesh. So, yeah, you can start to just take things about what's going on and imagine dressing them up a little bit. And we can workshop this a little bit more, but a musical demonstration, that's my best attempt at one on this particular subject. What's on the turntable? What's on the turntable this week is not on my desk. It's on the turntable, and I forgot it. It's the Blues double album Jimi Hendrix collection. It starts with the Hear My Train A-Comin', which you can actually see the video of. It's one of the few videos you can see him playing acoustic. He's playing 12-string and records Hear My Train A-Comin'. There's this blues collection where he plays Born Under a Bad Sign and a bunch of blues types of tunes. It's pretty great. It's not like an official album release, but it shows a lot of his blues influences, and definitely check that out if you haven't, because he does some alternative versions of Red House and things like that. That's the Blues double album from Jimi Hendrix. Something that helped me this week, singing songs in my range. I was listening to a lot of Mose Allison and James Taylor, and man, I've spent so much time thinking about how I wish I could sing higher or sing like tenors. I've even heard James Taylor say this before too, like, I kind of wish I had a higher voice so I could sing all these great songs. You know, I love people like Bob Marley. I love so many singers that sing higher than I do, but there's a lot of music that I really like that is in my range. And Mose Allison, if you don't know him, he's got this album called V8 Ford Blues. I think that's what it's called, from the late 50s. It's amazing. A lot of those songs influenced guys like Pete Townsend, who did Summertime Blues and all sorts of things that were influenced by Mose Allison. So not straining, just working on the delivery instead of trying to reach for higher notes that are out of my range. All right, friends, that is episode 16 of Earth Tones. Thank you as always for listening. I've got my song Little Kitten Blues. There's a new song coming out called Train Track, so be on the lookout for that. Michael LaMarche has just finished the artwork, and I'm going to be recording that. As always, thank you for tuning in. I'm Jake Pardee. You can visit my website, jakepardee.com, for more information about me and maritime recording, about recording processes and guitar lessons. And I'm always here to remind you that we are a delightfully musical people on a greatly, fantastically, stupendously musical planet. Thank you for making music and sharing it with me. Send me some earth tones. Send me some of those earth sounds. If you record something this week, send it over to me so I can include it on an episode next time. All right, that's it. I will see you next week for my favorite number, 17. Earth Tones episode 17, next week. See you then.